Hey, chismosas.
Welcome to the Tell Me Chisme podcast with Marty and Kim. Okay, guys, welcome back. We are in the same outfits because we're batching
Yes.
the episodes because, we just obviously we don't live in the same city, so whenever we do see each other, we try to get as much content as we can.
Yeah, and we can yap for a while. So, something else we decided we wanted to talk about for you guys seeing
Something a little more lighthearted.
Lighthearted.
There we go. It's because English isn't my first language.
Okay, that's enough. Something that me and Mari wanted to talk about was the beauty standard in a place like Mexico in comparison to the United States.
Yes.
This might be a little bit of a touchy subject, because it has to do with people's insecurities and maybe.
And I can only say something being a thinner person too. Like
I thought she was going somewhere else with that.
No. I'm saying I can only say so much, from my
absolutely
my what do you call it? My POV, I guess.
Okay, well, starting off right away, when you think of, let's just think for women, because I think for men it's a little different, right?
Were you gonna go into stereotype, a Latina stereotype?
I mean, I think so. I'm like, I can't speak for guys is the thing. I'm like, when I don't know.
Yeah.
You could?
Yeah. Like,
all right, let her speak for guys. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we see novelas, which is one, they got the tall wrong.
Yeah, they're not all tall.
Yeah, they're not all tall. But no, thinner build, like an athletic build, but like a lean athletic build. Facial hair,
like barbón.
Yes, barbón, brown eyes. But I think more like I think more like they tend to be more on the tan
like clean,
side.
like clean cut too.
Yes, but like more like brown features, more than like you see them more with like brown hair, brown eyes, brown beards.
They're always brunettes, yeah.
Yeah, so brunettes for sure, and like lean athletic build.
Mm-hmm.
Now on to the Latina stereotype, the one that we normally see in novelas, in media, your TV hosts, all that.
You started and I'll add on.
Okay, the big one. They're light skin.
Oh, I thought you were going, when you said big one, I thought you were saying big tits, big butt.
Oh, no. I was going to say curvy. I was going to say a voluptuous, curvy woman.
That's like the stereotypical that like, they're like super thick, slim, thick.
Curvy woman. Curvy woman.
They're usually on the paler side.
Yes, lighter skin for sure. And long hair.
Yeah, long hair is never short hair.
Yeah, big in the culture.
I think the reason we wanted to talk about this now is like, obviously, stereotypes have been around for like as long as we can remember, and the beauty standard I feel like has switched so much here in America. But it's like, I think regardless of the ethnicity you come from, I feel like almost a lot, like across the board, a lot of ethnicities, like women specifically, they're all striving for the one beauty standard. That I feel like even Mexico has also like kind of shifted to that too, and it's always like, I feel like European features, which is like a small pointed nose, which a lot of people get plastic surgery for if you don't have it naturally, like a small pointed nose. I know, because I feel like, I feel scared.
Oh,
I
don't want to say anything too controversial.
I don't want to say anything controversial.
I'll say it. I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, I'll bleep it out.
Okay.
A small nose. I feel like it's not always like bigger lips, but like a very prominent lips.
Yes.
You would agree?
Yes.
Okay. That, and then for the Latino stereotype, it's usually like some form of lashes, like some kind of makeup, like something. It's never just natural.
Yeah. Unless they're like going for like the innocent vibe.
Yeah.
Then for
like
sure,
Girl Next Door.
Yes. Then they'll for sure like ease off. No. Ease up on the makeup. Why am I struggling with my English
I don't
today?
know.
Oh my god, this is
I'm
embarrassing.
a little scared for her. But yeah, this standard is so weird. Like, at least for me, I feel like when I was younger, I felt a little bit more, because I feel like when you think of like a beautiful Mexican girl, at least me, don't get me wrong, I don't think I'm ugly, but I know someone that looks like me wouldn't be the first thing that comes to someone's mind. I get that. And I feel
like when someone says, like when you see guys on social media say, "Oh my
gosh,
I want a Latina baddie." We're not picturing the same. I was like, Latinas baddies come in all different shapes and colors.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but we know what they're picturing.
We know what they're picturing. They want someone who's slim, thick, has a butt and boobs.
Yeah.
Is thinner. Everything we described, right? And it's like, at least for me, when I was younger, I felt not the need to fit into a beauty center, but I noticed it earlier on when, one, my skin tone was commented on a lot. It was like a thing that I was made known about. And my nose not being small. I used to be insecure about it as a kid, and I would joke about getting a nose job, but as I've grown older, I'm like, I would never do that. I love my face, but
yeah,
it's like these things that like kind of follow you. I don't know, like I've always had long hair and I've always enjoyed that, but I will say, I think that has to do with it too because I have always felt like either less feminine or just not as like beautiful or like secure with myself anytime I've had shorter hair. I don't know. For me, long hair makes me feel beautiful, and I think a lot of Latinas would relate to that.
I agree. I feel like it's been a while since I've had really long hair. I feel like
Yeah.
I tend to go for like the medium or shorter length of hair. I think only for the maintenance of it for me, because I didn't get your type of hair. Like mine's, we have different texture and stuff.
Yeah, a
So I
little
think
bit.
that also affects it. But like for example, when growing up and stuff, like obviously like we went to a predominantly like there were a lot of Hispanics, and obviously even within the Hispanics, it's so easy to compare, especially when you're in that teenage era where you're already going to be comparing, insecure, you're going through
Yeah.
puberty, feelings and everything are at an all-time high. So for example, the girls that were curvier than me, the girls who so what do you call it, their womanly features
Came on
came out
earlier.
earlier, like I was feeling left behind. I was like, why don't I have a butt? Why don't I have big boobs?
Yeah.
And once again, like it kind of makes you, and obviously like at that time, obviously, you know, boys were teenagers, obviously that's kind of what they were being googly eyed over and stuff. So I'm not, and like I said, same thing with what you're watching on the novela. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to be like a grown up, because in my head I'm like, as soon
That's
as I
what an
become
adult
an
looks
adult,
like.
like you go from teenager to that's what you're gonna like. It's almost like you're promised.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I was like, I was promised
That's what you're
this.
trying to live up
Yeah,
to.
I'm like, where are my hips? Like, where's my
Yeah,
big
that's a
butt, my
big
big
one.
boobs?
Like,
You
it's
know?
not to say that Latinas don't actually have that build, because a lot of Latinas are just like, they're just, you know, genetics. That's just how they're
Yeah.
built. But it's like, that's, I think because that standard is so like pushed now, and not even just like influencers, but like a lot of celebrities get work done, whether they talk about it or not. I'm like, it just kind of pushes that
And
standard
one
more.
thing too, for example, let's just talk about like Mexican actors off the top of my head that I can think of that kind of like went the, like you said, more European features and stuff, like shrunk their certain features. There's Asa Gonzalez.
Oh yeah,
Asa Gonzalez is beautiful, but
she
once
had
again,
like a.
when people think about like beautiful Latina actresses, I'm sure she's coming up right because she's an A-lister. But let's be real, that's not what she looked like beforehand. Okay, and then Dana Paola, same thing. She got, like, I think her nose done. She's a tiny little thing. She's petite. You know, obviously she works out like crazy, I'm sure. But once again, both of them are very thin. You know, I'm Asa Gonzalez, I think, is on the taller side. I don't know how tall
Yeah.
Dana Paola is, but you know, like they're
And still,
very
again,
thin
but
and
these are people that we're
lean.
referencing that aren't even like super like, I guess, tan or modern, as what we're saying. Like,
Yes.
still digestible for the majority of
Yes,
people.
and once again, like I feel like, for example, mainstream like music nowadays, there was all these songs, and a lot of them were like mi güerita or whatever. Now I
That's
feel like
a big one.
and another thing too, like now you were like, for example, like the mi güerita, mi morenita, whatever it's called. You know, like the girls that were using the mi morenita thing
we're
aren't even
güerita.
morena to begin with, which just makes you realize that these girls have grown up thinking they're morena just because they're a couple shades like darker than the like light skinned Latinas that people kind of
Can I be honest
want
with
you
you?
to look like.
I never even thought of that from that perspective. I was thinking, honestly, I think a part of it is rage bait, because they know people will be upset that like, why are you calling yourself morena when you're literally a güerita, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll do it on purpose to piss people off. When I was telling Mari about this whole trend that's going on TikTok of like, not to flex, but I'm so proud to be from Jalisco. That's not a bad thing to be proud of that. That's great. Everyone's proud of the state they're from. It's the fact that it's like stereotypically that people guess that you're from Jalisco when you're güerita. You have probably light colored hair and you have blue eyes. People automatically think you're from Jalisco. People are using that as a flex. It's like, that's rooted in white supremacy right there.
Is your flex like
That you're from
your
there,
pride?
that you look
Yes.
like this.
Yeah.
Like, that is crazy. I'm like, the colorism I see in the comments is like, yes, it's such a flex to be like güerita or like white
Yes.
passing. It's
and
like,
I was just telling her, I was like,
whoa.
for example, you see those like fan cams of those baseball games in like Culiacan or Sinaloa or whatever, and who are most of the girls that they're fan camming on and stuff and blowing up on the screen? Lighter skinned girls with colored or light colored eyes.
And sorry to say, but it's people that have very obvious work done. Like, they
yeah,
have
which
lip
that's
filler.
a whole other conversation
Yeah.
too. But yeah, like they're thinner, they're lighter, and they have colored eyes, or like you said, like smaller features.
Yeah. We want to say right now, we're not criticizing these girls. We think they're beautiful too. I think it's just like we're talking about it because, again, it's coming from a beauty standard point, right? It's just so wild to me, like how much has shifted. Because I feel like at least here in the US back then, like early 2000s, the beauty standard wasn't maybe being necessarily like curvy, but just be like very slim,
Yeah.
petite, thin, but blonde, blue-eyed. A part of that still definitely exists in the
Yeah.
US, but I hate to give her credit, but I gotta give credit where it's due. I think the person who kind of made that shift was Kim Kardashian.
Oh,
With
from
like
s-
from
from
being like just
thinner?
like slim to like having
Oh.
curves. I feel like that kind of changed the ideal. So now a lot of people want to like
Yeah.
gravitate towards that. Like, well, I feel like I need to look a certain way, right?
No, yeah, I agree there.
Same with like being brunette over like being blonde or whatever, you know?
Yes. And like recent, like obviously like women have been getting their breasts like augmented for years. Like
Yeah.
that is not,
It's
you
not a new
know,
concept.
Yeah, that's not a new concept. BBLs, the blown up of the BBLs, I feel like that plastic surgery could be its own podcast. Like that, I won't go into much
Yeah.
depth. But once again, like you are seeing a lot more women want to be curvier. And now there's the whole conversation of like, are we slowly starting to go back to people wanting to be skinny now with the whole Ozempic and everything, you know, Ozempic being more accessible.
It's like there's like a competition going on of like what's gonna stick or what are we gonna make the thing that sticks.
Yes,
you know?
so
It's
obviously
like,
for the last several years it's been BBLs, thick, like voluptuous, curvy women. But now as we're seeing, you know, and this I feel like I saw, I don't know who was saying it or something, but that they're like through centuries and stuff, you know, like it was good to be fat because that meant you were eating well, you had food, and it was kind of like a to the we might have to
Like-
lock that out.
like let them eat cake. Like that was like
Yes.
royalty. Like if you were bigger, showed you could afford it, and being thinner showed you were poor.
Yes, you were poor. But now if you're thinner, it's like I
I
have
cannot-
access to healthy foods. I have access to
Correct.
gyms. I have access to memberships, to trainers. So now being skinny is the flex.
Yeah,
being
and
thinner.
being overweight or whatever,
Yes.
not thin, is showing that you're average
Yeah,
or
so the
poverty.
people that were like that, like kind of guess trends or whatever, they're like, with this increase of Ozempic, we've been going from like thicker women, you know, like kind of like being too curvy is kind of like slowly like going on the way out as Ozempic is coming in, you know, because people are kind of
And you can
people
see that
that
with
were bigger.
celebrities too. Like we're not gonna say any names, but it's like when you immediately think of that, I'm sure you guys can think of a bunch of celebrities, and sorry, specifically women, that like you knew them once to be like, not that represents them, but it's like they were known for looking a certain way, and that was to them being
Yeah.
not the ideal standard, whatever that was, right? And you see them suddenly lose a bunch of weight. I'm not saying that they're entitled or that we shouldn't be expecting to see their journey. That's not our business, but it's like
yeah.
you can't deny that shift.
And we were talking about like, for example, in terms of like culture and stuff, and like I don't know where the term what?
It wasn't picking it up a little bit.
I wasn't talking.
Oh,
Oh, you want me to eat my mic or something?
hell yeah.
One thing that we're talking about, like, so I don't know where this term coined in. If it was, is it a Mexico term only, or did they use?
Let's hear it.
You know the term I'm gonna say, torta.
Oh, yeah.
That's Mexican, right?
Yes.
I don't want to say it originated in Mexico and turn that it's like a Colombian term.
Yeah,
that we
for
stole.
sure. I think, okay, the reason why I'm kind of questioning it too is because there's like terms obviously in America that people use like to describe, like, for example, like, okay, not the same thing, but like big back. I'm like, the fact that
Okay.
people use that to describe
Okay.
like how someone's built.
Yes. Okay. My old roommate had a friend, or has a friend, and this guy, he's white. This guy would call what you think when you think of the term torta. He obviously he's white. He wasn't saying the word torta. He called them bigums. Yes, it's
Where did he get?
big
That's like
backs.
worse.
I don't know where he got
Bigums?
this. Yes.
Like, oh, bigums. Like,
Yes.
what is that?
Yeah, so I was like, when he told me that, my jaw dropped to the floor. I was like, oh my God. I was like, you and your boys are just throwing these little slangs between each other. Like when you see a woman who happens to be on a little bit on the bigger side.
Yeah, again, we're just talking about women because we can't even get into the
I
guy
don't
stuff.
even want to know what
I don't.
other guys think or whatever little things they have. But yeah, so for example, the term torta, I will say, I'm not going to lie, I don't know if it's because Mexicans just have some of the best humor. I
It's
feel
always something food related, right? It's like,
like
okay, in Mexican culture, I feel like it's already it's a known thing that whenever you give someone a nickname, it's based on something like you kind
like
of,
descriptive of some
yes,
sort.
or even just like teasing them, but people love to say cariño. Sometimes it goes too far. Don't get me wrong, definitely. But like, for example, I'll say this. My family members, okay, my dad calls me chaparrita. That's obviously means that I'm short.
Which
I
I don't know why he calls you chaparrita.
Well, because when I was younger.
Okay, but you're taller than me. I
Shut
feel like
up. That's not the point. I was shorter than
whatever,
him.
Whatever.
But
Then why didn't I
my
get
family members,
it? Okay, whatever.
instead of calling me gorda, they call me gordo. We're not getting into why they call me that, but they call me gordo. That's their nickname for me. Don't know why, but
Na
that's
gorda, na gordita.
Gordo.
Gordo, gordito. Gordito.
well, that's any better.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying it's gordito.
Okay.
You know, not gordo.
Yeah, but that's what they call me. So it's like the fact that we use that. I'm like, so at what point did we say torta and it stuck?
Okay, but once again, back to my point that I was making, that I think because Mexicans have such good humor, is that I feel like the alleged, like the tortas, I'm gonna put it because I'm not calling them that. I'm saying like
What people coined
yes,
it
what
as.
people call them. I feel like they kind of like. I'm telling you, somebody. I was literally telling Kim earlier. I was like, "Oh look, somebody just liked my TikTok, and the username was your fave torta 1998."
Like I like it when people can take it like
But
lighthearted.
what if your fave torta watches this podcast?
Stop. I hope.
Shout out.
Hey, shout out to you, girl. Okay, I like it when people try to like they play into it because they're jokingly. Yeah,
or-
like they take the power back from
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
right? Then instead of getting offended by it. But then there's people that go too far. Like, for example, a while back, Mighty decided to teach my mom what torta even meant.
And honestly, should I have? Maybe not.
I don't know.
Honestly, maybe not.
I don't know.
I was just in a silly little goosey mood, and I was like, "Mom, you want to know what this funny term?" Once again, obviously being called that, if you don't like it, is not funny. But,
yeah,
you know,
don't
for
call
the
for
sake
someone
of, you know,
that.
TikTok comments and for the hee hee ha ha.
It's nice banter with your friends and people you're close enough with.
Yes.
Don't call anybody that.
Yes. So I told my mom, I was like, "Mom, I was like, ¿sabe lo que le dicen a las gorditas en México?" And I
Again,
was like,
gorditas. That's like a
yeah,
dude.
yeah. So I was like, ¿sabe lo que le dicen a las gorditas? And she's like, ¿qué no? She's like, no sé. And I was like, tortas. And she's like, ¿y pues qué le dicen a los otros? She's like, sandwich. And we're like, what? Like the fact that she went like, oh, we're going with the food theme.
Yeah, like she thought that's what it had to do, like specifically food related. Because I remember one time Mighty said like my mom suddenly was starting to use this word like casually,
yes.
and she
and
started
then I told
using
my
it.
mom, I was like, Mom,
Don't.
I was
call
like,
people that.
nah. You know, because you know Mexicans tend to be. Okay, I will say though, I have encountered some Mexican women that I'm like, oh wait, maybe my mom is just part of that culture that's like kind of mean and toxic. Yeah, cause
Yeah, like
sometimes,
criticonas.
yeah, because I forget
Yeah.
that not all Mexican women are. You
Yeah.
know, in my Delulu head, we're all the same. You know, but
No, we're not.
yeah. So I had to tell my mom, like, Mom, quit it. It was just a little fun. Throw it in your dictionary, not for you to use it. Just like a little knowledge.
Yeah, my mom saw a couple out and she's like, "Mira, ahí va la torta con su sandwich," referencing like her boyfriend being like tall and like thin. We're like, "Mom, you
Oh
can't
wait, it was
just like."
because it was thin. Because
Yeah, that's what she
okay,
said.
okay.
Like, "I va la torta con su sandwich." We're like, "Mom," but yeah, these standards are so weird because even now people like. I don't know how you would describe a torta. I'm not gonna get into it. We're not even gonna talk about weight, height, whatever. But let's just
Can
say
we? I'm just kidding.
some people got so extreme with it that they'll see someone that's like mid-sized and be like torta, and it's like,
Yes,
whoa, what's
yeah,
going on?
yeah.
Like y'all are just fat phobic.
No, and at that point, like, oh man, like, oh no.
I feel
was
like it's always like it's funny until it's not. Like
no, it is.
think about it. You are very obviously thin, but let's say someone was being dead serious and they were like, "Well, you're a torta." Wouldn't you be like, "Whoa"?
Yeah.
I don't know. But also it's like, okay, and what?
And like I said, maybe because like for example, I don't know if the tortas know that they're being called tortas, or if somebody that is bigger automatically
Can
knows.
I be honest with you? I would rather be called a torta than some of this other shit they say. There's like some heinous stuff people say.
Honestly, okay, I feel like if I was a little bigger, I'm like, well, you didn't call me ugly.
No, okay, that's another thing with the beauty standard. People like to focus a lot on weight, and then obviously think that they will find beautiful, whatever that may be. In Mexico, for some reason, I feel like weight is such a big thing. They automatically deem you as like, even if you're bigger, like in their eyes, you're not even like considered beautiful, which makes no sense. Because I have said this, like, even when I have been at my biggest or whatever, and I felt the most insecure about my weight or whatever, there's times I'm insecure about that, but never. I was like, people have called me fat. They've called me every word in the book. They've never called me ugly. You know? So it's like, that's an interesting way to like look at it too. So like in Mexico, whenever I think of like, let's say when like there's a tia talking about a girl and they'll automatically be like, oh, she let herself go or whatever, she got bigger. Yeah. It's like, so automatically they don't think they're beautiful anymore. Like their features are the same. They haven't changed. Personality is the same, but because that's such a big thing to them, like
That's because they hold on to beauty and weight so tightly.
And I think that's like a definitely like misogyny thing.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think because if they are on the bigger side in their eyes, like automatically they're not like.
Yeah,
they're
and
ugly
let's
or
look at it from
whatever.
an opposite standpoint. Like you grew up being thinner, like you said, you maybe might have felt insecure earlier on because you didn't grow into these features. I feel like there's a lot more of pressure, at least in like the Hispanic community, to like be I guess, thinner. Like, it's almost like a sin to be like fat, but it's like on the flip side, like, if you're like too skinny, they're very quick to be like, ah, pues esta no come, no vas a comer.
Yes.
It's like, it's just toxic either way. It's like, that's a lot of pressure, which like our community needs to work
And
on for
another thing too,
sure.
I was gonna say, I think something about the skinny girls. What was I gonna say?
No clue.
Oh dang, it was kind of a good point. I think I was gonna say.
I mean, did you ever get like told something that made you
Oh,
feel bad
no,
about like,
well,
you
real
know?
quick. I was gonna say, I feel like on social media and stuff, I've seen like, not okay, maybe not to necessarily question someone's beauty, but is it like, do we like it because they're skinny, or is it like, for example, when someone wears kind of weird outfits or whatever?
Oh yeah, like,
And
is
they're
the
like,
fit nice, or is
yes.
it just work
And
because
I'm
they're
like,
skinny?
exactly. I'm like, okay, are we complimenting her and for the fit, or is it just because a thin person is wearing it? Like, are you gonna have that same energy when a bigger person wears this same exact outfit?
Yeah,
That's
and
the
I've
comment I was
seen
gonna
in
say.
the not only that, like, there's so many examples you can use, like you said, like showing outfits on two different bodies and seeing how they get like comments.
Yes.
That you can see it really quick, especially in girls' comment sections. Not only that, me and my sister, we've kind of always been the way. She's always been thinner than me. That's whatever. That's what it is. Even the comments of like, at one point, like, I have vivid memories of like us eating the same amount of food, but because I'm bigger, it's like there was like always comments towards me but never towards her, but because the way we present ourselves is very different, like the way
Yeah.
we just are. I'm like, that is wild to me, like these
Yeah,
standards are
like if
just
I were to, let's
crazy.
just like if I were to get second, someone might not even bat an eye.
Exactly, but I go and be like, damn, another one. It's like,
Yeah.
that is ridiculous, but I mean, beyond that, like, when we talk about beauty standards too, like, obviously we talk about weight, that's a very part one. The plastic surgery, people, what things are
On
getting
the plastic
done.
surgery thing too, only because I've seen it. I don't know if I've seen it, like, for example, on other groups and stuff. I'm thinking more like Latinas and stuff, only because like that's obviously more of the media side I'm on and stuff. The tiny little, like, is it the Lorax? The little, you know what noses I'm talking about?
Like,
The little pointy.
like MJ.
Yes, the
Sorry.
little pointy, like, it's like I can see both
And
nostrils.
guys, listen, I'm sorry, but before we started filming, I definitely said a name because I'm just like, there is some celebrities that do get extreme. It's like, listen, up to them. Obviously, it's their body; they're deciding what they do. But it's like, it's insane because you know what they're trying to fit. You see
Yeah.
the standard. It's like, it's just insane to me a little bit.
And we're talking about the stereotype of like Latinas and everything. And I know like the whole plastic surgery / filler work done or whatever. That I feel like I hadn't really paid as much attention to in recent years until I was watching. I think it was like a TikTok or something. It was like a slideshow. They were posting all the candidates for like Miss Mexico.
Oh my God, that is a
It was
great
like
example.
It was like 20 slides of 20 different women from like different states. It might have been all 30 something states. I can't remember.
I know.
But you would, okay, yes, we know pageants and everything. They've all been on the thinner side. That's regardless.
Yeah.
All these women had amazing bodies. Thin,
Besides that.
whatever. Okay. Big lips, fillers, small noses.
And not only
Like-
that, not only small noses, what I'm saying, obvious nose jobs because you could
Yes.
see scars. Let's get that out of the way. Third of all, the skin tone, almost no versatility. It felt like no
Yeah.
diversity, similar features. Like, I hate to say it, don't get me wrong, all these women were beautiful. I could have said maybe 5 of them were maybe sisters, or they
Yes,
they
and
probably all
that's the
could have
thing.
shared the same foundation. Like, it is insane.
And like the whole thing, I'm like, okay, I don't know if if these kind of pageants or whatever, if they can suddenly be like, sorry, if you've gotten lip filler, no go. But a part of me is like, well, I was like, if this kind of pageant or whatever is like searching for the most beautiful woman to represent Mexico or whatever, I'm like,
Whatever that is.
should we be letting these women that have filler and all that, because I'm like, I don't know, like I remember like seeing novelas and stuff, right? And like, this is gonna be such a weird little, it's kind of personal, but whatever, I'm gonna show it just because it was something like I grew up watching obviously a lot of novelas, a lot of like Spanish like morning talk shows or whatever. I remember I was obsessed. Obviously, like a lot of the lighter, they were more like, they either had brown light hair or they were more like on the blonde side kind of thing, but they were like Latinas playing
Yep.
these roles. They were so light. They had all these like freckles because obviously they're lighter skin.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I remember thinking like, obviously because like they're like Latina baddies, they're wearing like V-cut shirts or whatever. And I remember just obviously they had bigger breasts too, but I remember they had all these like freckles. And for some reason I was like, oh my God, like I want those freckles. Like obviously they have freckles like at to that extent because they're lighter, like they're light
And see, that's
skinned.
another conversation too. Like, there's people that's in their insecurity.
Yo, literally,
Freckles.
yeah.
See, so it's like these standards, like they just range.
Yeah, but I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like, and like for some reason, like I have plenty of moles on my face and stuff, but for some reason, like like I said, the lighter complected people on these novelas and stuff, they obviously were so light that a lot of them had like freckled chests, and I was like, oh my god, I want, like, in my head I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to wear a bikini and like have all those freckles
Yeah.
and stuff. But once again, it's just like a silly little thing that a little like 9-year-old me was watching.
Yeah, I feel like despite everything, like for me, I think growing up, my insecurities didn't stem from like, because again, this was like pre-plastic surgery. It wasn't necessarily that I was like, I'm never gonna touch my body because I didn't know about it yet because it wasn't as familiar. For me, it was like, okay, well, I'm kind of starting to feel ashamed for being morena because they're making it seem like I'm less than, so I'm just not gonna go in the sun as much, or I'm just gonna wear a bunch of sunblock, or I want to trade and stay in my winter shade as long as possible. Like,
I think that's a good, let me bounce onto that. Like, for example, for my quinceañera, the amount, because I was in tennis, I was in the sun a lot.
very tan.
The amount of times my mom would have to remind me, wear a long sleeve, wear a cachucha.
Like,
why?
tapate.
Because suddenly they didn't want me to look too morena in my pictures. And it makes you think, like,
Why is that
too
a bad thing?
morena? Like,
Yeah.
why is that a bad thing? Like, I'm out here. Had she been like, hey, remember to wear sunscreen, no te quemes, you
Correct.
know, would be
That's
different.
a different thing.
Would be different, but we know that that's not the little under. And like I said, maybe maybe that's kind of like how she might have worded it, but we know that's not where those underlying feelings come from.
Absolutely.
Like, there's a reason why she didn't want me to look too morena.
Exactly.
or
Like,
whatever.
that's how I felt too. Like, I would, to tie it back into like the colorism, I'm like, even me being the skin tone I am, there were certain things that I felt like I couldn't wear because I would automatically get told like racist comments, or I couldn't do certain things with my hair. And I know exactly, you guys know what I'm referencing. Like, for being morena, like having my hair in braids, you couldn't probably guess what I would get told, right? So it's like the fact that like that was deemed as like any less beautiful compared to if someone like Mari's skin tone or lighter was doing the exact same thing. That is an insane concept to me. So it's like some of these beauty standards have gotten to a point where like they're so toxic, and like not only that, there's no like originality, because I feel like everyone slowly starts to morph into try to fit this standard that everyone starts looking the same. So not that it makes them any less beautiful, but I think it takes away from like the beauty that comes with someone looking unique because you don't look like anybody else. You know, I'm like, I kind of miss that. Like, that's why people say they miss like seeing actresses that all look different. Meanwhile, you look at a show and it's like, okay, it's just a bunch of fillers. Like, it's hard.
And like I said, I feel like this could be almost like we said, another plastic surgery lip fillers. That could be its own podcast that we might have to do later on.
Yeah.
But for example, just to touch on that real quick, like I saw I think it was like a tweet or something, that they're like, I cannot sit down and watch like an old time, like basically like a historical film when the actress has lip filler. It's like, I just can't take them seriously.
Yeah. Mind you, we haven't even got into veneers. A lot of Latinos get veneers, and like unreal looking ones. Okay, you may have noticed our mics cut out, but we're just gonna say a couple more things to wrap this episode up. But back to what I was saying, I feel like that originality is kind of dying out because everyone's kind of trying to fit this beauty standard. So everyone's starting to like morph into looking to a very similar person. So I just kind of hope to like, here moving forward, I think it would be really important for us to like just embrace your natural features, you know, be proud of it, show love to other people, you know, like remind other people that they're beautiful the way they are too, like embrace that.
And I think us moving forward, what we can do, obviously, like us to future generations, you know, kind of put an end to colorism. Obviously, like it's a generational thing. So obviously it's going to take a while, you know, for us to kind of, but you know, what we could do for our kids, you know,
be a better example.
Yeah. Be a better example, to love our features, kind of more empowerment versus, you know, wanting them to fit what, you know, media norms.
Yeah, because that's the other complicated thing too. Like, beauty standards, it's completely understandable and justifiable why you would feel the need to fit into it. The pressure is extreme, especially with social media. But one thing you have to remember is like, if you are constantly trying to fit the beauty standard, you will just never win. It's constantly changing. That's why I say it's better not to embrace it. So just to wrap up this conversation, guys, if there is anything we missed, tell us the Chisme. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.